Awesome. Welcome to another episode of Fight the Burnout. Today, I have a friend of mine that I met through another friend of mine, and she is a sales wizard, I'm going to call her, because just watching her posts and knowing what she does and a few people that she has helped, she's a bit of a sales wizard, but I also know that as any top performing person, we go through burnout. So, Jacqueline, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experiences with burnout, but pretty much your backstory.
Yeah. Thanks for having me here. I'm glad to be speaking with you and with everyone listening. And burnout has been a recurring event in my life and in my story, I suppose. It started, I don't know. I think I experienced a lot of burnout type of anxiety experiences throughout my entire life. It started when I was a kid and experiencing my first kind of bouts of anxiety. And that originated from, just feeling like I had to fit in and then wanting to do the opposite, then wanting to stand out and, figure out my path and place in the world and all of that. And when I went to college, I experienced it on a new level, and it kind of progressed into intense depression. And I got to a point where actually I couldn't leave my dorm room. I would start to walk to class. I'd get like halfway across the quad and then turn around and go back, because I couldn't even get to class without having a panic attack. And so I spent a lot of time in my dorm room thinking about life and thinking about what I wanted to create. I've always known that I wanted to be my own boss and run my own business and impact the world and people in a deep way, but I didn't really know what that would look like. And so I felt a ton of stress and anxiety around what's my path, what's my purpose. And I felt this deep sense of loneliness and purposelessness. And so at that time I felt the burnout just from I was burned out from like living a life that I wasn't excited about and feeling like I didn't have a path or a purpose. And it manifested physically in many ways. And then during that time was when I was able to actually listen to myself, because I literally could not do anything else. That I really got some time with myself to really tap in and figure out what it is I did want to do and what my path was going to be. And I'm sure some other people listening can relate to that, feeling this sense of just, you know, being caught up with what everyone else says you should do or be, and not being able to even hear yourself. And then when you get that clarity, it's like, wow, that's, where did that come from, kind of thing. So then I started an entrepreneurship, and that's what led me to running my own business. And my first business I started was in 2012. Officially, I was running businesses, younger, but it wasn't really legit until 2012. And that was when I first got started in my first business, and it's evolved since then. And I'm still an entrepreneur, and right now I support entrepreneurs with their marketing and sales, and I help them to communicate effectively the value of their offers and market themselves simply and with effective, repeatable strategies. And I love it. And so then the burnout happened multiple times through my entrepreneurial journey. Of course, as you're running your own business and wearing all the hats and embarking on this new adventure and getting all excited, and each day is like a complete roller coaster. Some days you're like, screw this, I'm done, I'm quitting. And then 5 minutes later, you're like, okay, I'm not quitting, but something is not right. I need to switch things around, or I need to get help here, or whatever. It's up and down all the time. And so I've had my fair share of burnout experiences with entrepreneurship, which I'm sure, we'll get into further later in this episode. But yeah, it's been an up and down experience for sure.
I think it's interesting listening to you talk. Obviously I run my own business. I'm going into doing some new stuff here soon, where I'm not actually going to be running my own business, but still sort of do in a way. But it's interesting with what you're saying and what popped out for me. And tell me if you feel the same way. But when you put so much pressure on yourself to succeed, you end up actually in a way detrimenting and putting yourself into burnout, because you're just like, I have to succeed, but I don't actually know how.
Yeah. And I think it's difficult when there's no rule book for running a business of your own, right? Especially when you are alone. If you don't grow up in a family that, even if you do, I mean, my dad runs his own business, and my mom is a real estate agent, and they're both consultants of sorts. Like, they're in somewhat of the same realm of what I do. But even with that, it's like everyone's journey is different. And so there's no rule book for what to do, especially with an online business. This is pretty new. I mean, when I got started in 2012 running an online business, it was still so new that everyone was making fun of me, and everybody was like, "What are you doing running this online business? Like, how's that, little business of yours going? What are you doing on Instagram? Like, why are you sending people messages and posting content about your program? Like, what is this?" And it wasn't, this is before the age of the influencer. Like, no one knew what the heck I was talking about. So I was completely and totally alone. I had no support, no mentors that really, could truly guide me. It was still pretty new in that space, as far as mentorship. I was still trying to figure out who to trust and who to hire. And so I was pretty much alone until I found, a community and support and my first mentors. And so that was really hard. And I think that creates a lot of stress and burnout too, because you end up trying to do all the things, wearing all the hats, testing out a bunch of different things just to see what works, and trying to make something happen. And it's a lot of scattered, chaotic energy.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that one. I remember when I left the place and decided I was going to be an online coach, and that I had so many people, family members, that were like, "How are you? That's not going to work. You're not going to do it. Why are you bothering?"
Yeah.
And then when I did 6 figures in the first 12 months, and when I just did 6 figures, they went, "How?"
Hmm.
So yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is that pressure from all around, isn't it? So Jacqueline, just
Yep.
real quick, and you've kind of already touched on it, but I like to ask the direct questions so that viewers know exactly where you sit. What's your definition of burnout?
I would say that burnout is when stress becomes so monumental that it completely, reaches the point of zero capacity. Like, your capacity is completely spent and taken up, and there's no room for, um, really anything else. There's no room for taking care of yourself adequately. There's no room for creativity and innovation. Solving problems feels like, it feels like the tiniest problems are really, really large. And it just inhibits all ability to effectively function.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, sweet. So on that, you're at university, you're massively burned out, obviously changed into doing your own thing, I take it.
Hmm. Yep.
Um, and then you constantly obviously go through these, troughs and peaks and that, going through running your own business as you do, or as anybody kind of does. What do you find is the key nominator, or the key thing that you do or did initially and still do? There's a few questions there. Um, to keep yourself from completely just going back into that utter depression and burnout again.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. What do I do to make sure that that doesn't happen again, you're asking?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. I think I mean, to be honest, like, it still does sometimes. It happened recently, this past year. Well, in 2019, it was pretty bad. I was in a pretty intense burnout, but making it happen still, pushing through, continuing to grow the business. And then in 2012, when quarantine started and everyone was going into lockdown, um, that was really interesting to observe when I looking at the world, seeing how everybody was reacting and how they're reacting in their businesses. And I went into full on, like, survival mode, have to make the business work, and make it happen, because I was just feeling such a level of uncertainty that the only thing I felt I could find certainty in was the business. So I worked even harder, during that time. And I also found that the things that came easily to me were things like partnerships. So I ended up in 3 or 4 different, joint ventures and, businesses and side projects and things like that with people in my industry and some close friends. And they were all extremely successful. I'm really grateful for that during such an uncertain time. And I noticed throughout doing this, as I was doing these partnerships, what ended up happening really was that I put my existing business, my sole, my company, on the back burner during this time. So I wasn't relaunching my core offers. I wasn't taking on new clients very much. I had like a handful of clients at the time, and I essentially put everything on pause. Not even intentionally, it just sort of happened when I started taking on these partnerships. And what I think that was about was because it was because I was so burnt out with the way I was doing things in 2019 that I was like, all right, in 2020, I'm not doing it that way anymore. I literally cannot. And now that the world is on fire, I must do something different and do the things that come naturally. And I work so well with other people, and I'm kind of an ideal volcano. And so I love sharing ideas with others and then working with someone else to get those ideas to come to fruition. And so when the partnerships came up, I was like, this feels great. This feels like it takes some weight off of me. So I was feeling less burnout by working with others, working in partnerships. So I spent one whole year working with other people in these partnerships. And they were, like I said, very successful. Most of them did 6 figures and others did 7. And it was really great. And what I realized emerging out of the other side was, okay, I'm going to do my business differently now that I'm coming back to my business and not in those partnerships anymore. They wrapped up, we completed, it was great. Now that I'm back with my business, how do I want to run it this time? How do I actually want to conduct business? What type of support do I need? What am I available to be doing, and what am I unavailable to be doing in my own business? And so I think that those questions have really been my guiding process for avoiding burnout, and the flip side, seeking a state of balance and expansion and creativity, which I think happens when you're not in the red, in the burnout area.
Yeah.
So yeah, focusing on the things that I am available for, that light me up, that fill me, versus the things that take from me. And I didn't have that awareness before because I was just doing it all. I did have a couple assistants here and there, but I really wasn't being a true leader and an intentional creator of my life and of my business. And now that I have that perspective, I'm very intentional about the mentors that I bring on. I'm very intentional about the contractors I hire and leading them and having them support me in very specific ways. I know the things that I'm good at that bring me life, and I know the things that are that strip me of energy. And so I'm very conscious of that and very intentional about how I design my business moving forward now, even if it took some time to make that pivot. And even though I sacrificed income doing things differently, because I could have just kept doing it the way I was doing it, make a ton more money and probably burn out again. But I've chosen me and my sanity over that for the time being, knowing that it not only will save me, but it will also make me a ton more money in the long run. So that's what I've noticed. Yes, exactly. So that's what I've noticed recently.
That's awesome. So how'd you come to that realization? Was it like, did you just all of a sudden be like, hey, whoa, this is what I need to be doing? Or how, because I know there's so many people, like listeners and viewers and that will be like, I'm burned out, but and they might just go, oh my God, yes, I relate to Jacqueline. Or they might go, wait a second, actually, but how do I change that? How do I actually make this happen? So what was it that made you go, okay, cool, this is the way I'm going to do things from now on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a constant unfolding. So there wasn't really a moment where I was like, I know exactly what to do. It was more so that over time I noticed what was draining for me, and I just started to take note of that. I even started like a journaling process for it. I would just write down like, I can't do this thing anymore. Like this in particular is very stressful for me, or this thing is very draining for me, or this thing seems to take me way longer than it should. And so looking at it in a really practical sense of like which items, which tasks, which situations are causing me this draining feeling, was really great. It was just, I was going item by item, and so I think overall the difficulty here with burnout is that people look at their entire life and they look at the whole situation, like the big picture, and they're like, I'm burnt out, but they can't see the forest through the trees, because it just feels like their capacity is so limited and they're just so tired that they don't know exactly what it is that needs to shift for them to get out of that. So I think if we can like zoom out and say like, all right, great, if I took a really objective view of my life, what are the things that are the most draining for me,
Mm.
and how can I do that differently, or how can I remove that, or have someone else do it if possible. And so I think that sitting with that and saying and asking myself those questions was really helpful. And then also looking at, if I were to completely start over, like whether it's business or, career, or like move to a new place, or with relationships, like what people, places and things and tasks and whatever it is are draining, and what are the things that are life-giving, what are the things that expand my capacity and give me creativity and vitality. And just taking note of that, I think, is the biggest struggle. I think that just noticing it is the first step, and then the steps from there on out kind of become more clear.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, it's almost taking it's taking a what's the word I'm looking for? Taking
Audit.
audit. That's the one. Yeah, taking an audit of your life. Literally going, okay,
Yeah.
cool. What is it? And it's funny. You're the
Mhm.
second marketing person that I have interviewed that does marketing for a career and owns their own business. He said the same exact thing. Did
Yeah.
the same exact thing, burned out because he was doing all the things that he didn't enjoy doing. And all of a sudden, as soon as now he's like, I find the people that enjoy doing the things that I don't enjoy doing.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is people don't realize when you start a business that you're going to be the accountant, you're going to be the bookkeeper, you're going to be the project manager, you're going to be the copywriter, you're going to be the marketing person, the salesperson, the writer. Like you're going to be doing literally everything at first. And yeah, at the beginning, there's like some hustle there. Not everyone has the capital to invest in hiring out every single thing you don't like doing. And so for years, for like 8 years, I was doing mostly all of it. I had a little bit of help, but I was pretty much doing it myself. And so I think we also get attached to that on an identity level. Like we get attached to the feeling of like, I'm doing it all and this is my business and I'm self-made and all this stuff. And so I really had to tap into that too, and recognize that getting help is not weakness, and it's not stupid to spend money on that. I had all sorts of resistance around like, well, when you spend that many years figuring it out, like you become pretty good at most of the things. Like
Mm.
I'm pretty good at most business functions. I'm not excellent at all of them, and I'm not bad at any of them, but not all of them are my zone of genius. Absolutely not. But I'm pretty good. I'm capable
Mm.
with all of them because I had to be. And so I had all this resistance because I was like, well, I can do it myself. Why would I spend money on that? Why would I hire that out, or why would I cut that out? It's working and I can do it, but it was killing me
Yeah.
and I was exhausted. But I had all this like ego stuff with it, and a resistance to spending the money to get support and all of this, BS. So when I finally said it's not worth it, like take
Mm.
care of your health. You're not going to grow this business any further if you keep doing it this way. It got to a point where I had to make a move. And I think that's where a lot of people with burnout get to eventually. It's not like they just woke up one day and said, you know what, I feel like this is unhealthy, I think I should change something. It's like they hit a wall and
Yep.
then they're like, oh, I actually can't do it like this anymore. It's like your body forces you to find a solution. It's less of an introspective thing and more of a just like, okay, guess I have to figure this out now.
So you've obviously got a team that works with you, I take it, no?
Yes, I do now.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So
Yeah.
obviously there's going to be people that haven't had the realizations that you have. What do you do to help your team prevent going through burnout?
Mm, great question. Great question. Well, as their leader, I think that I have a responsibility um, to guide them and be an example. So I think that me doing the process that I was talking about earlier is part of supporting them in that way, because they're able to see me and the standard that I hold for myself and then follow suit. And they also are able to see that this is the type of culture that I create in the business. We don't work, during times when we should be sleeping. I don't expect them to do that just because they work with me. And in fact, if they're doing that, I'm going to be concerned, about their health and about their own well-being. I don't give them last minute tasks if I can help it. I try not to put things on their plate that I need in an hour when I didn't give them any notice. I try to be the leader that I would want, and also knowing that I'm human and always growing and getting better at this. But yeah, I mean, there are various things, but I would say that those are the main ones, trying to exemplify that type of leadership and looking after myself in that way, but then also creating a culture where that's our standard.
Cool. So what do you do daily to make sure you're filling yourself up?
Yeah. Well, I do have a light morning and evening routine. They change fairly often, but I would say that every morning I try to get some sort of movement in, like a walk or yoga or a workout. It depends on the day and how much capacity I have that morning. I try to write every day, and I definitely don't miss a meal. I love breakfast. And so I make sure I'm filled up, fueled up, writing, try to do some meditation, movement, water. I've been microdosing a little bit here and there recently. That's the most recent development, and I appreciate that. It brings a lot of presence and creativity. And what else? I think one thing that I notice is when I'm feeling a little burnt out during the day, when I'm feeling like I'm reaching an edge and it's not like a healthy edge, then I just give myself permission to pause. I just give myself permission to go take a walk or go call a friend or go get a snack and take a break, even if it feels like I can't, that's usually the time that I feel like I need to. And so I give myself permission to do that and know that the other, whatever it is, will wait.
I love it. Yeah, having that morning and evening routine, but also giving yourself permission, because I mean, I use this example with my clients all the time that I coach. I'm like, so when you get really pissed off, do you get shit done faster, or does it actually take you longer to get stuff done compared to when you started to get pissed off, you just took a break, went and had a breath, and then came back to it? Which one ended up getting done sooner? Like, the one when I take a break. Why aren't you taking more breaks? I love it. I love it. So Jacqueline, I'm a why guy. I realized around the time, I think it was, that we first met a couple of years ago, I started to actually dive into why people do what they do quite deeply, and really the leading things behind it. And what I've found is it actually a lot of times stems back to when we were kids and how we were raised, and certain circumstances that happened normally around pre-7 that created why we've done everything that we've done through life, why we've acted the way that we do, why we've been the way that we were in high school, why we've gone down the career paths that we have, and how we help people generally. My why is I want to create less pain in people's lives, so they have more joy and happiness in their life, relationships, so on. As you can see, this is why we run the podcast, Fight the Burnout, so that we can give tools to people so that they have less pain in their lives. What would you say your why is that gets you through those tough times and also the easy ones?
Yeah, I really appreciate what you shared. I think that's really cool. Yeah, I think the specifics of it ebb and flow, but I think that the core root of it doesn't really change. And the root for me is really about freedom, and specifically freedom of self-expression and just being all that you want to be. And so what that really means for me is it really comes down to, when I say self-expression, it comes down to communication and communicating human to human. I'm really into psychology. I teach marketing from a psychological perspective, because my end goal really is for humans to better communicate and understand each other so they can have just better, more connected, more valuable, richer lives, whether that means communicating better in business to further your mission, or in relationships to have more connected relationships, to relate and connect with each other, with strangers, or anything else. It really, that's really the thing that's important to me, because I'm a words of affirmation person. I love to talk. I want to do more speaking, and I love to write. And those are my favorite things, because I think that's how missions are spread. That's how movements are started. That's how the world actually changes, is by sharing perspectives with one another, communicating in a way where you're actually hearing each other, and you're actually taking on what the other is saying. And I think that's how, individually, person by person, impact actually happens. It's not just, being in our little bubble, doing the work, right? It's through connecting with each other, and furthering those missions. So that's my overall thing that I'm all about, because that's true freedom to me. And if I think about the personal aspects of that, I think I spent a lot of time as a kid not really feeling heard deeply. And I lived an awesome childhood, but that was just something that I grew up feeling like I wasn't totally expressed and heard. And so that's become something that's important for me, to help others to do. And I've always been a creative kid, and an artist and a writer and a performer and all these things. And so it feels like I'm doing what I really wanted to do as a kid.
Yeah. So would you say that you're an artist and you've been a performer and all that, so you could communicate who you actually are?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so awesome to hear that. And so many people actually struggle with identifying their specific why.
Yeah.
And I know that because of obviously doing lots of coaching around it with people. Is one of the things that I find that I think is the most powerful thing, especially with my background, ex-law enforcement. You get somebody to learn their why beyond, I just want to help people. And they're going to keep powering through. They're going to keep figuring out how to do the career that they want. Even if it shifts and it changes, they're going to keep figuring out how to serve that why. So that's awesome around communication. And I can definitely see it through, when we've been friends on Facebook for ages, and you do a lot of columns through Facebook. I can definitely see yours as communication. It's definitely
Thank
there,
you.
and it's very good at it. No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, that's amazing. So with that though, obviously, like I said, there's a lot of people that struggle to find their why. Is there any tools that you would recommend, or any ways that you would recommend for people to help themselves find that underlying why? Obviously, there's the broader what it creates and that, like you talked about, but yours, obviously, your main one is your main thing that drives everything. The driver is communication, to create communication, to help others create communication. So what would is there any tools or any insights that you might have to helping people find that driving why?
That's a great question. I think they probably already know. I think that a lot of people who are like, yeah, I don't know why, just really aren't listening, to be honest. I think you really just need to give yourself the space and the silence to just hear what comes up. Like, I didn't know how I was going to answer that question when you asked it. I just started talking. I had no idea what I was going to say. It wasn't like planned out. I know you gave me that question ahead of time. I had no idea what I was going to say. And if you asked me tomorrow, I might say something different, but it would be with the same core mission of helping other people to live their freest, most self-expressed lives, to further their mission and their message. And that's what's important to me, but it might sound completely different. But I think giving yourself space to hear what comes up and letting your soul speak, as woo-woo as that sounds, really is where that kind of stuff comes from. I think we oftentimes look at other people's whys and they're like, yeah, I like that. That sounded nice. I'll take that on. But it's not there. It's not yours. It's theirs, So there's really nothing else you can do, but can strengthen that connection between just with yourself, and let whatever comes through come through. And if it truly feels like crickets, like I have no idea what my why is, then I think that means that there's a need for more time with self. Go for a hike or try out some meditation, even if you feel like it's so stupid and you're just sitting there thinking about nothing. Like, just do it. One thing that I found particularly helpful is what is it called? The Artist's Way, which is a book that teaches the morning pages. And the morning pages is this idea of sitting down every morning and just stream of consciousness, brain dumping, 3 straight pages every morning. And I do this every morning and I love it, because I just, sometimes it sounds like I have nothing to say, I have nothing to write today, this is dumb, I'm tired, I want to go back to bed. And then eventually stuff comes out and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was in there. Okay. And it might just be a to-do list. It might be literally a grocery list. Like, it changes all the time, but eventually stuff comes up. And the more you do that, the more comfortable you get with listening to the inner voices, the more comfortable you get with allowing those things to come through. And every once in a while, you start to notice little gems popping up that you didn't realize about yourself. And it's been one of the most impactful self-discovery processes that I've done for myself. So I'd recommend that.
Awesome. Yeah, I have people go through a process where they ask themselves why it's important. So the initial question is, why is it important for you to be successful or happy or whatever it is that you're going through at the time? And then you ask yourself the answers. You ask yourself why it's important, and then the answer, and you dig deep. And those that have self-awareness can normally dig into it pretty quickly, and they find it pretty quick. And then those that struggle with it, like you said, it's just a practice, it's creating that practice. Get to about level 4, and then that's where they kind of get stuck. And then that's where when you dig through and you bring that self-awareness to it, normally about 80% of people start to get tears. They start to realize things, the emotions start to come out, and they figure out actually where it stems from when they're a kid, and they're like, oh my God, and it all starts flowing out. And that's when that self-awareness is there. And it's pretty spectacular once you actually do find it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I love it. So obviously you're in communication, marketing, which is just all about communicating to people. Correct me if I'm wrong. But so what would be your number one piece of advice for marketers?
Yeah. Number one piece of advice. Oh my gosh, I have so many pieces of advice. I would say, right off the top of my head, stop listening to everybody else, but listen to me. Just kidding. Stop listening to everybody else about how you have to, about what you have to do and how you have to be, and the specific tactics that you have to do. One of the biggest things that I was doing a guest expert training today for someone inside their paid program, and I was talking about how tactics are rampant, that we have no shortage of tactics in business. We have no shortage of cool new shiny things that you can do to get sales or whatever. But those things are dated. They only last so long. They become outdated very quickly. The market gets sophisticated. People figure this stuff out. Who wants to be tricking their audience anyway? I mean, the tactics will always be there. They will always be changing. Trends are always changing. There will always be a new platform. All of that stuff is always ebbing and flowing. But what doesn't change is that you're communicating to a human. There's human to human communication happening. And so the best thing you can do is really understand deeply psychology and the psychology behind marketing, and truly just the psychology of humans, human behavior. And once you're able to understand that more deeply, then you can market effectively to the emotions and the emotional touch points needed to bring people through a psychological buyer's journey to get to a point where they're ready to invest in whatever you're selling. And with that, the tactics, the trendy strategies really don't matter at all. They all work in some way, shape, or form. They just might not work specifically for everybody, for you. And the reason that is because if you don't have the psychological understanding, then none of the strategies will work. They could work, but they won't if that part is not there. So that's why people really teach these things, because it worked for them or it worked for their client, but it's not foolproof. It doesn't work for everybody. And that's because this is the missing piece that people really don't understand. And it's that they don't understand exactly who they're talking to, what they really desire. They have an idea, but they don't know really what they want. They don't know truly the context around the problem that gets somebody to actually move. Plenty of people have problems. That doesn't mean they're willing to pay for a solution. Everyone wants to be healthy and fit, but we know perfectly well that there are plenty of people who are complaining about it all day long, but aren't going to hire a personal trainer for years until they have the context that makes them move, until they're, trying on wedding dresses, or until they are going to be in a bikini in a couple months. There has to be something that makes people move. And so I think when you start to really dig into that world and understanding the psychology and the mindset of your ideal client, which is the work that I teach, then it changes everything with your marketing.
I love that. Yeah, it is so true. I mean, it's the same thing with sales. I do quite well at sales, and it's about finding out what it is that is their most painful thing that they want to overcome, and what it's going to change, what it's going to take for them to actually take that step into it. And it's all psychology, everything. Really. Even burnout is all around psychology. How you prevent yourself from getting into burnout is all around the psychology that you put onto it, and what you don't want, what you do want, and what you're happy with sitting in.
Oh yeah.
So, Jacqueline, now we're on to, you kind of told us what you do and your top tips. How do people get in touch with you if they want to? One, even just touch base with you and just talk to you about burnout. Or two, if they want your services, if they're like, hey, I resonate with Jacqueline, I need help. How do they get in touch with you? And we'll put the links and everything down below as well.
Cool. Absolutely. Yeah. So you can reach out to me on Facebook under Jacqueline Yvette, or on Instagram, Jacqueline_Yvette. And that's cool with me. Feel free to reach out if you listen to this episode. I'd love to chat with you and hear more about your story. And if you want to experience more of my work, I'm actually doing a masterclass in a couple of weeks. I don't know when this episode will be out, but it'll be available by then, in the next couple of weeks. And it's all about messaging and communicating to your ideal client in a way that helps move them through this emotional buyer's journey, gets them to a place where they're wanting to invest with work in your product, in working with you in some way, shape, or form. And so I'm talking all about that. It's called Vague to Vivid. That's my masterclass. And so if you guys want to check that out, that's like the coolest way, the easiest way, simplest way to. You can hear me?
We got you back. We got you back. There we
go. What was the last thing?
So we fit just on they were to reach out to you is the easiest way through the masterclass. You told us all about the masterclass.
Yes.
So we lost audio there for a second, but we got you back.
Okay, great. Yeah, but I was just saying, if you want to check out Vague to Vivid, the masterclass, that's the easiest, simplest way to get a taste of what it's like to work with me. So you can go ahead and check that out, and I'll give you the link to.
Cool, perfect. So we'll put that link in there. This episode is going to be going live, New Zealand time, the 26th, which is tomorrow. Amazing. From our recording. So the 26th in New Zealand, or the 25th in the States, depending on where you are in the world. But so we'll put that link down there. Also, if that link for some reason isn't working, just message Jacqueline. She will always reach back out to you. Last question I like to ask people, and I've changed this question recently, is what's your top tip to self-happiness?
Acceptance. Full acceptance and surrender. I think I spent most of my life, and this is still a habit that I'm trying to break, trying to control and manufacture what I thought would bring me happiness. And this is a super common human trait. We're all trying to figure it out, and what's gonna, the only reason we do things is because we think that doing them will give us an emotional experience that we want. And what I found reading The Surrender Experiment, a really amazing book, is that it's really not about what you do at all. And true happiness is found in the acceptance and surrender of the grand scheme of life. And we do what we feel inspired to do and what feels like an aligned next step. and fully go for all the things that you feel called toward, and just know that none of those things or people or experiences are the source of your joy or happiness. And that happens when you choose to accept the things that you can't control in life, which is pretty much everything. We really can't control very much at all. And surrendering to that, knowing that you're along for the ride, and you're a conscious participant in all of it. And understanding that beautiful dance and balance of life is I think where true peace comes in. And to me, true peace is really where the breeding ground for ultimate happiness.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Jacqueline, any last words that you'd like to add?
Last words. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been so fun to chat and to share about these things. And yeah, if anyone listening can relate, I love to hear from you. So feel free to reach out. Would love to have a chat.
Awesome. So reach out to Jacqueline if you feel like you resonate with her, if you just want to touch base with her, if you want to just say, hey, that was an awesome episode. Also, feel free to put in the comments down below, hit the subscribe, the alarm bells, all those fun things that everybody tells you that you should do on every single video and everything that you see and listen to. But here at Fight the Burnout, we like to help and give people tools. We talk to people from all different walks of life, specifically because not every one person is the same, and you'll resonate with different people in different ways. So we like to give you different experiences. Even if the tools might sound the same, if you've listened to all of our episodes, you'll hear it in different ways from different people. I know I do, and I know so many other people do. They have commented back about it. But also, if you're looking for direct tools and some direct specific guidance and coaching, just let us know. Either put in a comment or send us an email at fighttheburnouttpodcast@gmail.com. And we will touch base and hop on a phone call with you, or even just send you some more information. But till next time, remember our motto is to train our mind and bodies as hard as we can, so that when we're tested, it's easy. Sometimes this means by doing nothing. Yes, train hard, test easy. But till next time, we love you all. Thanks for listening, and make sure you share this around if there's anybody that you know that could do with hearing some of what we have to say. Till next time, we'll talk soon.